Welcome to the X's and T podcast, where we talk about X's and T with your hosts, Corey
and Danny.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome. I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's funny. I think it's just the anticipation of this episode.
Because it's going to be good.
It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be entertaining.
We're so excited to have everybody here because we know you guys love this subject.
Yeah, you do.
It is one of our most requested and most popular episode topics because nobody likes MLMs.
No.
Nobody is about MLMs, and ex-MLM members love to trash talk.
Love to give the tea.
Yes. And that's exactly what we're here. We are really excited because we actually are bringing back an amazing guest that we had previously all the way from Canada. Again, that's somewhere I've never been. That's like way over on the other side of the country. But we have Hope back. Hi, Hope.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. And actually, we are so excited because we also have Hope's husband, Fyscher. Hi, Fyscher.
Hello. How are you guys?
Good. We're really excited because we had Hope before. This will be our first time getting Fyscher's perspective and just getting to hear all of these different things. And this episode, we're going to tell you what to look out for and how to spot a worldwide dream builder. Because let me tell you, there are key things that you can be aware of if these people come out and you're living your everyday lives and somebody comes up and approaches you, and they could very well be pitching you a multi-level marketing pyramid scheme cult-like environment. Again, we have changed all of the names that we have referenced. This is our experiences. This is our opinions. And pretty much every sort of disclaimer that's not going to get us sued because we have a right to speak. However, worldwide seems to be very litigious.
Yes.
I have seen how they've threatened. Have you guys seen Melody, her videos on YouTube?
Yeah. We watched a few of them. I don't know if Fyscher watched any of them.
Bits and pieces.
Pieces.
I know
yeah.
of them, yeah.
Yeah. And they talk about too how Worldwide reached out to them and was like, hey, you guys need to stop, or, things like that.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to make that happen. But we want to give a quick shout out to that upline that knows that he is watching. And Craig, you know who you are by now. If you don't know that you're Craig, I don't know how else to tell you. You're Craig.
We see you lurking in the shadows.
We really do. So thank you again for being a supporter of our podcast by listening to us.
Yep. And giving us those Instagram views.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. So when you guys kind of think about it, right? You think about the moment that you guys got recruited. And Hope, remind me how kind of you got into this. From what I remember is you were recruited by a family friend, right?
Yeah, it was like my stepmom's friend that she worked with and got really close with, but we also worked together at her second job.
Okay.
So
right.
that was the point of contact. She got the job there and went, hey, my stepmom? She's like, yeah. And then, that's how the acquaintance started.
Yeah.
Right. Got it. Okay. So again, I just want to say this is our experiences with Worldwide Dream Builders. This is in no way in reference to the distribution company that they use. We don't have beef with Amway. They are totally separate. This is specifically Worldwide Dream Builders because they are the quote vehicle, if you will, or what do they call it? Worldwide Dream Builder University. Were they still calling it that when you guys left?
Yeah.
They referenced Hamburger University.
Yes. McDonald's University.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
They loved that stuff.
It was the greatest analogy to them.
They
loved it.
Well, they would talk about Ray Kroc as if he was such a good dude. I watched the founder and I did so much research in that. Ray Kroc is an asshole. He straight stole McDonald's from the McDonald's brothers.
Yeah,
they could not. Right. They couldn't even use the name McDonald's after Ray Kroc.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Me either.
Heard the roots of Worldwide, hey?
Yeah.
Well, exactly. So, okay. So it was a family friend of yours. And I know that we went over your story, but if you could give us maybe a little bit of a recap on just kind of who your upline was. Again, we changed names, but if you know.
Yeah. So I had Carol, is the woman I worked with that was good friends with my stepmom. And I was really interested in like health and like fitness at the time, like and she was like bringing in like protein shakes, energy drinks, like just things like I've never seen before. And I was like,
Right.
oh, that looks like healthy, like kind of interesting. And
Yeah.
she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like this is health and wellness. So I was like, kept asking her questions about it because like I don't want to be an asshole and be like, oh, I don't want to ask you about like all these things you're bringing in. I want to make conversation with you.
Sure. Yeah.
And then eventually she's like, why do you keep asking me? Like, why do you keep asking me about these things? And I was like, well, I like health and wellness. Like, I was like, I think it's interesting. I like this stuff.
Right.
And she was like a fit person. So like, I was like, oh, this is somebody, like, if anybody's going to know about health, it's this person. And she's like, oh yeah, so like, this is like a business thing, like, you know, and I was like, okay, cool. And then eventually, like, we worked together, like one of the longer shifts that we could work. And she said to me, what are your dreams? Like, what are your goals? What do you want out of life? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I want to live in Hawaii. Like at the time, that was kind of my goal. Like I was like, by the time I'm 25, I want to live in Hawaii and like maybe waitress out there and like just enjoy the tropics. Like I was like, that's kind of what I want. And
that is a lot different from where you're from. Remind me, you guys are
Yeah.
from or near Edmonton, Canada, right?
yeah, just south of Edmonton. Yeah.
The snowy tundra. Am I wrong?
It's the city that's attached to the Edmonton airport. The airport's
Yeah.
a little out of town, so
Yeah.
that's kind of where Olivia is.
But yeah,
Okay.
it's yeah. Alberta, we got the mall, the big mall. That's what we're famous for. But yeah, and she just kept asking me a lot about my goals, my dreams, and what I wanted out of life. And
Yeah.
I can talk for hours. So I was like just spouting off. And then eventually
Right.
she was like, oh, I met a couple that retired at 25 and 29. And I was like, what? Like what?
Of course, that's going to pique your
Right.
interest.
Like who doesn't want to
Yeah.
do that?
Like I was 19 years old. Of course, it's gonna pique my interest. Like I was like
Right.
naive to the world at that point, and
Yeah.
very vulnerable to this stuff. So, yeah, I was like, she's like, well, like if you're interested in like meeting these people, like I need accountability. I need you to make sure that you're serious about it. I would need to meet your boyfriend, and
Oh, wow.
I want to do all this stuff. And I was like, this sounds amazing. Like,
Right.
To
hell
be
yeah.
fair, she did do a good job at posturing. So
Yeah.
that was one of the techniques they try to use.
Yeah.
And she did that really well.
Oh,
She
for
was good
sure.
at framing things so that you were still intrigued.
Yeah.
But she made it seem like we were actually going to meet some big league people that she happened to meet. You know what I mean? She
Yeah.
sold it really
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
That's so
yeah.
true. And
Yeah.
yeah.
It could have meant, it was so ambiguous. It could have meant anything. Like
Yeah.
I could have been meeting Mark Cuban for all I knew.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like it could have been anybody.
Right. Because they don't give you names a lot of the time, or they give you like a first name. Like I remember
Yeah.
like we were told about Barbara. Like that was the person that they told us about. Barbara would then be my upline eagle and her husband. And it was wild to me, just like you said, like they spoke so heavily, especially about Taylor. So as a reminder, Taylor is the club owner. If you know, you know. And I had the same experience. Like the person who got me around Robert, he was very much like, yes, like you have to come professional. Like this person is very serious. They only have X amount of time to meet with you.
Mhm.
I can only, like, they have limited seats in this room. And if you want to secure a spot here, they do posture really well. You're right.
Oh yeah.
The one thing that I noticed right from the first board plan, I know we can get into the board plan later if you want, but one of the things I noticed down the line is that I thought it was going to be just Hope and I meeting just the two of them. They didn't say
Really?
anything about a mass setting or a group of people. That was
Yeah.
quite the shock for me when I walked in there.
Yeah.
Because they told me dress my best, you know, you really have to sell this guy, you know, show him that you're worth it type thing. Because if he, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
welcoming you to my house. I don't let just anybody in, you know, and then I walk in, there's 30 people there. It's like, you do let just anyone
Yeah,
in,
they
you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like that.
Exactly.
And that's kind of where it started for the whole, this is not kind of what you said it was.
Yeah.
Mhm. They make it sound way better than it is.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like, 'cause
100%.
they give you this image in your own head, and
Right.
it doesn't quite
Yeah.
live up to it the way they say it, you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. As a reminder, board plans, which I know we've gotten into several times, but a board plan is basically where it's a big group setting, kind of like Fyscher said. It's where you have one speaker who is usually some sort of upline. I remember rubies, platinums, rubies, and on like bigger stages, diamonds were speaking. But basically, they're showing you the circles. They're showing you the stick men, and we will repost that picture
Mhm.
as we have in the past to show you that's just what they show you. And I have it drawn out. It's my representation of what they would show us. It's not any documents that I have quote stolen or anything. It's just what I remember, and it's my illustration. But that's what they would show us. They would basically hype up this huge event, right? They'd be like, they tell like their life story and all of their quote failures. I remember Taylor would just be like, I got fired from so many stores. I got fired from a shoe store, from a cell phone store in 2007 when cell phones were at their peak, you know? And then I became a club owner, what have you, right?
I forgot about that story.
Right? Yeah. And then, right, it's, oh my gosh. And his board plans were like 4 hours when I first started.
Oh my gosh.
They were forever long. And eventually he did taper them down because I'm sure upline were like,
Mhm.
dude, you're
You
keeping
gotta
people
hurry
here until
up.
freaking midnight.
Yeah.
And then it would just be 10 minutes, not even 5 to 10 minutes of this is what it is. And it's the stick figures. Sometimes it's the circles. And it's basically just telling you how to recruit people by quote buying your own products. At least when I was there, people were buying their own products. And remind me, when did you guys leave?
We left in August or September 2020.
That's right. In the middle of the pandemic. We
Uh,
got into that too.
No, it was after.
Because I remember learning the name of the pandemic from, I don't know if I have an alias for him. It was the
Someone.
Big Crown's older brother. What's his
Oh,
name?
yes.
We heard that
He
on
was a
on a
doctor.
communicate, yeah.
The doctor.
That's
And he
right.
said, well, they're coming out with a new name. It's not being called the coronavirus anymore. It's called COVID-19. So I remember that. I remember him saying this is going to be huge and it's almost here.
We
type
were already
thing.
living in
Prepared
Calmar,
for it.
though.
That
Yes.
sounds
Really,
like such
yeah.
a biblical end of times thing. Like it
Oh,
really
yeah,
does.
and you
Yeah.
you could sense it in the air with them too. It's like everybody else thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And we
times,
don't have an alias for him, but if you know the story, the beard's down to here, and we were crying on the living room floor back in like the 80s and
Mhm.
you know, whatever. If you know the older brother of the crown, you know exactly who they are. I don't think we need to give them a name. If they know, they know. You can even
Yeah.
Google it, honestly, if you really want to know. It's not
Yeah,
hard to
he was
identify.
only really relevant to that story in our lives, really. So I
Yeah.
don't think
Yeah.
we'll be referencing him again.
Oh yeah, definitely. Same here, actually. You know, what's funny is I do remember one of the board plans with him, and it's actually one of the things that people will talk about, right? And he was like, pull out your phone, look up Walmart.
Mhm.
They have bad reviews. Look up Mother Teresa.
Mother
She's
Teresa.
got bad reviews.
And Mother Teresa is bad. So like I think about that now and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
Mother Teresa also sucked. Like, so don't use that as your comparison.
Right. So Ray Kroc, Mother Teresa,
Yeah,
Walmart.
Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
These are wild references that they are taking from like a very like face value. When you look into these people, I mean, obviously opinions are going to vary, but like at the core of it, they're not good people. But that's who
Yeah.
they're using to reference, because most people aren't going to be like, oh, Mother Teresa's bad, but that's because they're not looking into the story and forming their own opinion.
Yeah.
They're just
Exactly.
so yeah, okay. So you guys were your upline. I believe you were with you were under Rianne and Nolan, and that
Mhm.
and Rianne was the nurse, right? And Nolan was
Yep.
almost a professional hockey player.
Yeah, he was almost
He
in
was
the
trying to
NHL.
make his way through fighting.
Yeah,
That's why. So
he was a personal trainer mainly.
he wasn't the best. He even says this himself. He wasn't the best at hockey, so he was trying to make his bones through fights.
Yeah.
And you could see that in their diamond videos and stuff. He's all banged up on the ice and stuff. And
It was,
so,
it was
Right.
pretty not humble brag, but yeah.
And then they were the first diamonds to pop from Dawn and Mary.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are Canadian leaders. Again, if you know, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Canada's not, I mean, it's growing, I'm sure, but I feel like when you say Canadian leaders with these specific backstories, I feel like anybody who has been a part of Worldwide knows exactly who they
Oh
are.
yeah, you would have
Oh
to.
yeah, we are very
Canada,
niche.
when
Yeah.
it comes to Canada, I think Dawn and Mary, they even said this. Not only were they the first diamonds, they were the first like breakthrough into
They
Canada.
were the first, like, since someone and someone in 2006. I don't have any alias. And then it was
BC?
football man.
Oh, football man.
Yeah.
I forgot. We'll just call him football
Yeah.
guy. He was a professional football player.
Yeah,
Oh
football
my
man
God,
and
I
his
forgot
wife.
about
Yeah.
football guy.
Again, if you know, you know.
Oh my God.
And they
But
were
you're-
diamond in 2006.
That's right,
And
I
then
forgot about
Dawn and
him.
Mary. Yeah, Dawn and
That's
Mary
right.
went diamond 2013. So they were the next. But
It was quite a gap. And then they really used that momentum to, like,
Yeah.
that's why Rhiannon Nolan went the way they did and everything. It's because they were literally taking Alberta by storm, and
Yeah.
people hadn't developed a reputation. They haven't,
Right.
you know, it's like nobody knew.
the
They
market was
they
unsaturated.
yeah, they
like,
it was discovered in a way. Like
Yeah.
they didn't know anything. Like I said, like we were duped so bad because we didn't even know that stuff could even happen.
yeah.
Right. And you don't. You think about the way that you're recruited, right? So again, we're talking about ways that you can spot a worldwide dream builder. And the way that you said it was kind of like perfect, right? This person used the products, which I know that was kind of like an older way for them to do it. In fact, when I was there, they started to teach you not to do that. In fact, they started telling you to take your labels off your smart water, put your excess
Isn't
in
that
another.
devious, eh?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
They
It was-
would, but they would do that before. They would
I
use
remember
the
that.
products. I remember and again, I don't have an alias for this one, but if you know, you know, it's that they praised her that she went diamond all by
Single?
herself,
Yeah.
single
Mhm.
woman from Hawaii, and she was under her brother and his wife, all from Hawaii, right? And she would say that she would pull out her lip gloss, and the lip gloss, if you don't know, has like a little like light in it. Like it's really not.
That got me. I was like, oh, you should get that. That's so
Yeah.
cool. So smart, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it has a little mirror on the side, but she would do that in public, and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, where did you get
Oh my
that?"
gosh, I've definitely seen those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's artistry, and then apparently that's how she would eventually like start the conversation, you know, around.
Suck people in with the mirror and the light.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. And that was one of the ways that back in the day, that's how they would get you interested, because
Yeah,
they
they'd be
would
like, buy this $80 lip gloss. Like, no, I'm
Mhm.
just
No,
kidding.
they
It's not
wouldn't
80
put it in.
bucks. Like,
but it was
it
expensive
was
though.
expensive
Canadian
stuff.
conversion makes it that way,
Canadian
though.
conversion.
Right. I know, that's right. Your
That's
guys'
crazy.
products were like way more expensive.
Yeah,
Yikes.
30 cents on the dollar.
30 cents on the dollar.
Well, it is now. Back then, it was about 24.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So imagine an extra quarter of the price increase because of us. Well, that
That-
reflected, I think that
crazy.
reflected on the same, oh no, it wasn't even the same PV. It was US PV.
It was, yeah,
So you
US
actually had to
PV,
pay
yeah.
more for less.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
we actually paid more, yeah. Yeah.
That's wild. And you consider how you're getting recruited, right? They're bringing in these products and they're like, oh, this is my business. This is my business, right? And you're intrigued because I've never seen excess before. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
It's your
And it
black.
was good too. Like, I'll never forget my first excess, the root beer. That was one of
Oh,
my
Yeah,
favorite.
that
like,
was,
it
it's
was
true.
so good. And I
The
was
black
like,
cherry was my
They
favorite.
We
had,
didn't
they
have
actually had
that.
some decent products.
You guys didn't
but-
get that
no, we
Which
only
one?
had tropical, root beer, grapefruit, cran grape. This
You
other
could get the
orange.
variety pack and then you get Naranja and Summit. Those are the
Yeah.
only other ones we had.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
wow.
So
all we
whatever's in
got.
the variety pack, the 4, the orange, the blue, the brown, and the
Eventually they were like, oh, we're gonna do the brand lists.
Oh my gosh.
The ones that were like, oh, this will just taste like vitamins. And I was like, oh, that'll taste like Red Bull.
Yeah, hooray.
Because that's what Red Bull is. It's just the vitamins. And I was really excited because I love Red Bull. I would ditch excess for Red Bull every day. Yeah.
And that was a no-brainer for me. I was like, oh, I can switch over from Red Bull to this. And then you realize the cost. I can go to Costco and get like 30 Red Bulls for $30. Those excess, you get like 12 and you pay $30.
Yeah, and they're like this big.
They're
like,
tiny.
They're this, like,
they only had that one that was the size. No, they had the two. There was the one that was like
Naranja.
Naranja.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had, or the Mountain Dew like one, the green one. But I think they discontinued the black cherry after I left. I was sad. And the regular cherry. Those were my like two favorite. But I think I convinced myself that I liked them because I would never.
They would kill our stomachs.
I remember.
We used to call it board plan pain because of the pain.
Because it would give you so much, like they would make you.
It was like you were so bloated. Like
it was you just ache because you'd sit in an office chair. You drink in excess and have to sit seated and not move for like 3 hours. Couldn't you know. It was brutal.
Let alone a major function where you're chugging like 3 or 4 a day and sitting still for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sleep deprived,
and you can't even bring food. And they tell you don't buy the food there because you're gonna look jank to your downline. Which my husband did all the time anyway.
Like,
Robert
you're
like the
feel
worst
like
line.
you're gonna feel sick.
They're
if you
like,
buy
well,
this food,
you don't do it unless it's in a budget. So it's like,
this
is to show the rest of it. It's to flex everybody that you're on a budget. It's like, okay.
Right.
Because there was always that undergirding of tension, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to drink a Monster, otherwise I'll be ousted by the rest of my. So you had to toe the line everywhere you went.
And they had this story about one of the platinums in, I don't remember the names that we gave them, but it's an emerald under Taylor and his wife. He is from Syria. If you know, you know. One of his platinums, they told us that he went to this guy's house and found all of the like non-Amway products and just threw them all in a garbage bag. Because he wasn't being duplicatable.
And he probably let him do that too.
Oh, definitely.
He was like, "You're absolutely right. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I want to go diamond." You know, freedom.
It's in his ass.
Oh my God, yes. See, were you guys there when they used to have us do the diamond chants, and then they stopped?
Oh my God!
And
they started doing
the
friggin' Illuminati thing. Do your diamond dance.
Oh, that's right. They would change the lyrics to songs to fit worldwide.
They had their own band.
Yes.
And they would custom fit their lyrics. It was downright plagiarism in my opinion.
Wow. Totally. It was so embarrassing.
That's probably the real reason they had a disclaimer to not record. It's cringy freaking band.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. Like I still have board plans that Nolan was doing. And I still have them on my phone. And I'm like, I could get your ass sued like very fast for a pyramid scheme. So
oh yeah, because that was the basis of how they were doing it. The whole thing was recruiting. That was everything that they pitched. You need to go build your business, go grind. That literally just meant go like
get people.
Yeah, go get people.
We're not a cult, we're not a pyramid scheme. Just focus on duplication and not products.
Yeah. And the funniest part about recruitment, like looping back to like the whole thing of like what to look out for, the weirdest part to me is that it always looked like sex trafficking or human trafficking.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Like,
they would.
A random couple coming up to you alone and asking personal questions about your life.
And to meet in a hotel. That was exactly what my mom told me, because Robert was like, hey, Barbara wants to meet you. And she has some time, come down to this hotel by the airport. My mom's like, don't get involved in some sex trafficking ring. And I was like,
oh my God,
this is almost worse. That was a joke, I swear. But no, but for real, like, it's so sketchy the way that they do it.
It is. Like, and it's everywhere too. Like, this is like, like, we were actually at the pool the other day with her son. We brought him to the wave pool, which is in Edmonton, just outside of our town. And there was a couple that like came and talked to us, and we were like, we were like traumatized. Like they just
Getting flashbacks.
waiting for
So
them.
what do you do for work?
They were like
It's like,
asking us, like, they're like,
oh,
oh, we just
God.
moved here, we just did this. And like, and then all of a sudden we started talking about cannabis because I'm in cannabis. And they're like, oh, we love weed. And I was like, oh, you're not in worldwide.
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, you're definitely not in worldwide.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we were like, oh my gosh, we've been traumatized. Like we did not
You
want to
really
talk to these
do.
people.
It
Like,
is. Because that's exactly what they do, right? Like when you are being recruited by somebody from Worldwide, or maybe any other branch from through Amway, but honestly, mostly Worldwide, obviously, because that's our experience. They're overly charismatic people, and they very clearly have an ulterior motive. The
Oh,
way
and
that
it's-
they ask their questions is so like they pinpoint, they want specific answers from you.
We'll just say this to the viewers at home, the folks at home. If someone random comes up to you and asks you, what do you do for work? Do you have any goals? You know, do you live in the area? You know, and they just are, you know, very casually hammering you with questions, then that would be your cue to probably say, you know, why did you walk up to me?
Yeah.
Why do you know, why do you
From
care that
Yeah.
I'm
way.
looking at
Question
cat
them.
food? You
the
know,
weirdest
it's like,
part was like near like I wouldn't say the end, probably the middle of our time, they started teaching us ways to get people to ask you what you did for a living.
Yes.
I don't know if they did that, but yeah,
Yep.
we had to like coax that kind of out of them to like, because you had to learn that conversational back and forth.
Yeah.
Like Don was super good at that. Like I think he studied something.
oh, it's sleight of hand.
Oh, he
That's
did.
basically what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's like persuasion and coercion and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's like
Yeah.
the same way a mentalist would work.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
really do. They are in the way that they come off to you too. There are very key words. And again, this is back in our time. I don't necessarily know in 2023 that they're still doing this, but it would not surprise me. I feel like all these things are applicable to
Oh,
this
they
day.
stick to what works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The word mentorship, that's what they use. The word mentorship. They try to steer away from the word business. I remember our upline being like, hey, do not say the word business. Like Jenny and Craig were really like, once they've been Eagle, they're like, do not use the word business. And they like make sure that they're like, yeah, I know this couple. You know, what's funny is I've never met anyone and spoken to anyone who has gotten recruited by any like big upline. It's usually I know a couple. It's never my wife.
Yeah.
And I'm sure maybe
No,
they're out there.
that's why
Weird.
it was tough for us, is because it was the Nolan and Rianne. Like
That's
they
right.
said, I retired at 25, and then my husband retired at 29. We did those things. We just left from, you know, the rec center and came here. It's like
But
That's right. You guys were right in their back pocket. I forgot
they
about
they
that.
were the
Yeah.
big leagues. So
But
we
even-
actually went to go meet those type of people.
when Rianne and Nolan would do like their challenges, like their diamond like incentives,
Yes, right,
that's
right.
what it was called. They would do it too. So that was another thing like that kind of like duped us a little bit. Is
Sure.
I remember a story of Rianne telling us about a Masawa that she got.
You guys probably never heard of Masawi, right? You're
no.
probably out
Makes
before
someone
that.
aware of what's available. That's what a
What is-
Masawa was.
That was
Wait, what is a
Dawn.
Masawa?
MSWA OWA. Masawa.
Make
What is
someone
that?
aware.
It's an acronym. Make someone aware of what's available. So that's drop the message.
Oh,
Ever
like
heard of that?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I
right.
met these people, and then that's where if you drop that, it's not quite dropping the message like the whole bomb.
Yeah.
It's leaving enough so that they ask.
Yeah.
That was their tweak that they made, is that
So yeah.
you entice them so that they ask you, and
Yeah.
then you can just drop it on them because they asked.
And
right?
all of their challenges.
easier
would
to swallow
have
that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
have to do that.
right.
10 times a week or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
But Rianne told us one that she did with this woman at a store. And I remember this being like, oh, you're a person too. Like this is another like, you know, thing.
Yeah, trying to humble
She's
themselves.
like, yeah,
we're
basically.
just like you. We're not
Yeah,
an
we're-
anomaly. You can do this too.
Yeah, because
Right.
we're in the fight.
Yeah.
Not that you have $1 billion. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, she was telling us a story about how she went to a store and there was a woman there and she got talking, and then she's like, oh, talked about her boyfriend. She's like, what does your boyfriend do? And she's like, man, I don't really want to talk about it. She's like, oh, your boyfriend's in the NHL. And she's like, yeah, my boyfriend's in the NHL. So Rianne like super latched onto that because she's like, oh, my husband was almost in the NHL too.
Almost.
Almost.
Humble brag. My
there's
husband was almost
a big
there.
difference between being on like the Edmonton Oilers and like not. Like,
That's
so,
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. But I can see that. Okay. I retract my statement. I know that for me, it was very much like I know a couple. And sure, when I met Barbara, she had just quote retired, but she was a teacher and she had her PERS. If you're not familiar, PERS is basically the Oregon version of like a pension or retirement that school teachers have. I have a family member who works for the school district. She talks about her PERS all the time. Like she will never quit her job because of her PERS built up, right? And she was living off her teacher salary. Like this was not a young person. This was not I retired at 25. This was I'm probably making what an Eagle what an Eagles maybe bring in, right? You're thinking their upline, they're getting a portion of their downline or their downline's money, right? So they're maybe breaking even on their ditto at the very least.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit that they're bringing in above that. I would say.
Because I think 1,000 PV is like $500 a month.
Yeah.
So it'd be like double that.
Exactly. Like, maybe 1,000 at the very least, $1,000 a month, which is a lot in addition to your income. That's quite a bit, but it's not a whole lot when it's not, I got to retire because of this business. It's you added on another job to your retirement money. Right.
Yeah.
Which sure, maybe people find that admirable. Oh, she was able to find another way to make $1,000 and she was able to like get her husband free because he had died 15 times in a helicopter. If you know this story, you know.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
So that was Barbara's. I forgot our alias for her husband, but yeah, her husband, they're actually like downline from their son. And so basically he got really, really sick, which obviously I would never obviously poke fun at somebody who was so sick. Like this guy really did overcome quite a few health challenges. So obviously, thank God he's still here for his wife, for his family, for his grandchildren, right? Yeah. But they always exaggerate the stories to make it sound like way worse. Yeah, well, that it was way worse, and this business somehow saved them. All they had to do was keep building the business. Oh, if you're having marital struggles, you're building the business, right? And but they exaggerate things in that, especially in that over charismatic way.
And they have to. That's the thing. Like we over exaggerated everything.
Oh, same. Like, everything. Absolutely. I was a single mom. Like that was the biggest thing. They're like, she's a single mom. She's killing it. I'm a single mom and I'm struggling. I have 3 jobs and I'm doing apps. Like I'm dying. And I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't be like, dude, I'm like broke because you can't pass negative downline. Again, those are as a reminder, those are the core values. No, the
cardinal rules.
Cardinal rules. There we go. I'm thinking about all the acronyms. Now that you guys brought up MASAWA, ours was form, family, occupation, recreation, message. And that message was making people aware.
So the form leads into a MASAWA. Yeah. That's how,
okay.
That's how Dawn would say it.
Yeah.
Dawn was very manipulative, man.
He fell in love. He fell in love with his own ideas and everything. Like he would create this new acronym and be so proud of it and force it on his downline. Yeah. And they would just lap it up because they had to.
Yeah.
Otherwise it was negative, right?
We've watched Dawn speak probably 50 times, in total. And
it's the same talk every time.
Well, it's not only that, but he is definitely neurodivergent in some way.
You can tell the way that his mannerisms.
This is a hyper focused type of he has spent his absolute life trying to understand this system. Yeah, it's his thing to understand. And the way he talks, him and Mary on stage, Mary would say something and he would immediately correct her. He'd be like, no, that's not how I do that. And you were like, yeah, you're definitely on the spectrum. You can tell. So he learned this science, for sure.
That's wild, which is no shame. I mean, my son is neurodivergent too. And
so are we.
They can absolutely hyper focus on things. And actually, so speaking of Dawn and Mary, have you guys noticed that Mary is on TikTok?
Yes.
That's right. Your comment on her TikTok was priceless. I loved it so much because it's so effing true.
I'm shocked she didn't delete it.
I know, me too. She didn't delete my comment either about her. And what's funny is, again, this is to be aware of. Mary is on TikTok acting as if she's some sort of like leadership guru who can teach people all these things, but yet she's not being honest and saying that she's a worldwide dream builder, double whatever diamond, right? No, she would never say that. Like, where's she getting these values from? Worldwide dream builders. And that's very, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's lying.
Deceptive.
Yes, it is deceptive, because I feel like people should know why are you preaching this stuff? Oh, it's because you're building a platform. Why are they building on TikTok? If they're like, I remember back in back in my day, that we weren't allowed to use social media for any reason at all. What did they give Diamond special permission now to use TikTok?
Yeah. If I could just say one thing, the thing that irks me about Mary on TikTok is if the comments or someone were to approach her and say, I saw you on TikTok. I really like your influencing stuff. Where did you learn that? She'd say, well, you didn't earn it. Or she would wall up right away, because then you would have to break in. You know what I mean? It's like, right. It's like if someone actually were there to help you, they would probably be more than willing to offer you information or to help you out, or say, oh, I'm so glad you saw that. You know, how I'm glad they helped you or whatever. But it would be, she wants to recruit. So she would have to keep something for you to be interested in. You know what I mean? And it's just backwards.
The beauty of it though is, like, after she posted that stranger danger TikTok, and like everybody was like, you were the worst stranger in the entire world. Like, her next TikTok was about why it's a good thing to get married at a young age.
Yes. Oh
and
my goodness.
after, did you see the comments on that?
Yep.
Like, everybody was like, what the hell, man?
Like, no, that's not what you do. Well, you know why they do that in Worldwide? Because you're more likely to have a couple who gets married in Worldwide stay in Worldwide, and they stay for lengthy periods of time. And not only are they getting married and they're staying in your business and they're staying for a long time, that's more PV for them. So point value, point volume, whatever that is. I don't know what it means.
It helps them in the end.
Oh, it
Point
does.
value.
Point value. Okay. Yeah. Your point value that they expect, it goes up as you're a couple, right? 300 PV for a couple, 200 for a single. I mean, I don't know if that's what you guys went based on, but that's what we were taught.
They tried to push us to 6 eventually. Like, they tried to, like, because our upline Eagles, Don and Jane, they did 600.
John and Jane.
Yeah. They did 600, but they were also 4,000 PV. So
yeah, when they get 4,000 PV, they're using that extra money and putting it in their business. And that's what's so funny is when you even make a cent extra, put it in your business. If people were getting large tax returns, I remember Kate's would come down, they'd be like, ex couple under Taylor and his wife. Oh, we're so grateful that we talked to Taylor. We got this really big tax return and they coached us to put it back into our business.
Ew.
They lost that money, guaranteed.
Wow.
How did they get that big tax return? Submitting receipts from shoveling out hundreds and hundreds of dollars for the company.
Do you know how hard taxes
they
were?
probably almost broke even with their tax return. No, they wouldn't have broke even, but they would have shoveled it right back in. If you look at it objectively, it was costing them so much money to brag about money that they were just going to blow anyway.
Yeah.
On their own business, giving it away for a dream.
And now it's like
air quotes.
Like, it had. You know what's crazy? I actually listened to this podcast from Life After MLM. Have you guys ever listened to that?
No, but we need to. Shout out.
Oh, so they are like, okay, this woman, Roberta, she's actually getting like super big now. And I listened to this podcast this week. It came out in November. It's called The Amway Tools Business. And it was one of the most interesting podcasts I've ever heard, where it talks about Bill Britt,
that's
a guy named, there's Dexter Yeager, and then there's somebody else. I'm using some words or names or whatever if you want to cut it out.
No, that's okay. Actually,
it should be allowed. I think.
It's okay. Bill Britt is like a really
he's pretty well known. But
Bill Britt.
Dexter Yeager is not known in the worldwide community.
So this gets
shunned him.
Wild, and they basically had an unnamed businessman who I believe is the owner guy that passed away in 2016.
Oh, right. The
They
creator
wouldn't
of
name-
The
Worldwide.
founder of Worldwide.
The founder of
Yeah.
Worldwide, they wouldn't name him. So I was like, okay, that's fine, but I know who you're talking about.
Oh, yeah,
because
absolutely.
I've been around.
Yeah.
We were talking about Dexter Yeager, who actually ended up getting disgraced from Worldwide. That's why we never heard his name before.
Really?
Yeah, because he so basically the tools business. So there's like LTD Worldwide, Brit Worldwide. Like there's a bunch of different like
Yeah.
subsectors of Amway. They basically Amway does not like any of them.
Yeah, no, they're just the distribution company. Their whole thing is they are just for products. Their whole thing is they
Yeah.
want to create independent business owners to sell, like
Yeah.
actually sell their products. Amway themselves are not a pyramid scheme. They are just a
Mhm.
distribution company. That's why we don't have
Yeah.
beef with them. But then you have those training organizations, right? I have air quotes since you can't see them, but
Yeah.
training organizations that teach you how to take advantage of Amway. And that was the
Absolutely.
biggest thing with Worldwide. Like I remember, so going back to that PV amount,
Yeah.
600, 200 was $600 back then. I'm sure it's more now.
Wow.
Yeah, 600 was $2,000.
Yeah, what did we say? 50 was, we kind of figured out by increments of 50. I can't remember how much
100
it was.
was 500. For 300 was 1,000, I think.
100 was, yeah, just over 500 Canadian, I think,
Yeah.
for 100 PV.
Yeah.
And they were telling us to do 300 minimum and 150 customer.
Yep.
Just to say just to show that you're doing
I
your
don't
part
need that much stuff.
and that you're serious about the dream and
Yep.
stuff
And
like that.
you had to do that to be
$1,500 a month.
legally considered a business by Amway. And they would, I don't know if this was happening for you guys, but they would tell us to BS who that customer was.
Yep.
You had to at least report.
Sell it to your
50
goldfish, sell it to your dog, sell it
Yes.
to your friend,
Oh my
sell it to
gosh.
whoever.
Like
Just as
actually,
long as you do the bare minimum for the business and you duplicate, but we're not a pyramid scheme.
yeah. They'd have us lie. Just put down your
Yeah.
grandma's name.
Yeah.
Just put down your
Yeah.
mom's name.
Who's
But
gonna
that
check?
50 is for you.
That's what they'd say. The chances of them auditing you. Or
Oh,
whatever,
what
like,
authentic people they are.
exactly. Like
Like,
it's the truth comes out when it comes down
Yes.
to the money.
well, it was not only that, but the truth came out when they would say that there was no seats in an arena for certain people.
Exactly.
That was an absolute lie. And when I remember us eventually like getting a seat and getting launched and then being like, there's a lot of empty seats. I don't know why they would tell us, because I take everything literally. I was like, oh.
Of course, right.
Well, you're supposed to. It's their word.
And then I was like, they said to somebody, they're like, oh, we might not be able to get you a seat tonight. And I remember being like, there's a lot of room here. And I was like, why did you tell them they couldn't get a seat? And she's like, oh, it's just something we say. And I was
It's
like,
to see if they're
oh.
Artificial
serious.
scarcity. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. And I was like,
So
oh.
deceiving.
It is deceiving. And that's a big part of how can you tell these people, right? Is they're deceitful. They will over exaggerate things. They're over charismatic. They're going to ask you about your goals. One
Mhm.
thing that you can absolutely tell in a worldwide dream builder from like a mile away is the way that they look, especially the men. They all have the same worldwide dream builder haircut.
Oh yeah.
They do.
They dress to meet people. They're told how to look and what to say and where to
Yep.
go and what time. Like
Yep.
you have to look business casual, which means clean cut, no beard. You got to be wearing nice, clean clothes that look inviting. And then you got to ask them these things. And then you got to like,
Oh.
it's like you're on rails. But
Yeah.
the one thing I'll say is like, we're portraying them as like incredibly cunning people. But I think a
Oh.
lot of it's not the thing that tricked me and that we were in for years is because we didn't believe we were tricking.
Right.
People
You
would
believe that
tell
they're
us,
being
and
nice.
we genuinely believed that we found these people that were going to help us, and we have a group of people that are all working together to help each other. And
Yeah.
like,
Podcast I
and
listened
that's
to,
why
like,
it's the scariest. is it's-
This podcast I listened to absolutely blew my mind, because I like listening to it, I believe that the crowns, that if you know, you know,
Yeah.
I don't think they know what they're doing.
I don't think so either.
Like,
Well,
and that's what this
I don't
this
know where to draw
podcast
that
kind
line
of
is.
like that's what this podcast kind of explained. Like this Dexter Yeager guy, he said like there was something, I don't remember the name for it, but it's basically what a vision board's origin is. So
Oh.
this guy was saying that if you walk into somebody's home and you're finding pictures of Cadillacs, boats, whatever, if
Post-it
you're
notes,
finding
quotes, sayings.
Yeah.
like motivational things, they are in Amway, because Amway is the
Amway
only
specifically.
That
MLM
is
that does
so
this.
true. They
It's
would
an
really
ancient
preach a
format.
dream board. People
Yeah.
would create entire dream walls and send them, and they would send them in pictures and Kate's and on back when it
That way
was
you
just
always see it.
Dreamstream.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But it's an ancient form of hieroglyphics, and it's a way to actually trick your brain into thinking these things. And there's a specific name for it, but it's why they use it. It's ancient, like it is like biblical times what people used to do, and they are implementing these things.
That's
Wow.
wild, because
Yeah.
they would really tell you, like, make a dream board. You're not, if you don't dream big, you're not going to be big. Like, I remember I came in and I had simple dreams, y'all. I mean, when I tell y'all I have simple
Me
dreams,
too.
I wanted
Yeah,
a
me too.
tiny house and I wanted a Chevy truck.
You had practical dreams.
Yeah.
Very practical dreams, things that I can make happen, because here's the
Yeah.
thing, as much as I believe,
Achievable.
well, yeah, and I am not naive to the fact that there are people out there who own these luxurious vehicles, right? I know that it's a possibility, but it's not necessarily something that I can hold my breath and imagine that I'm going to become that
Yeah.
person. It's such a small amount of people, but I'm okay with that. I had accepted it. But then when I got around Worldwide, it was very much like, you get criticized for having small dreams.
Mhm.
If your dreams are not big, they don't
How are
want
you going to
'Cause you
motivate
don't-
anybody?
Yeah, it's like, because you don't
Exactly.
understand what's at stake here. It's
Yeah.
the thing they would say. It's
It's like,
like
I wanted to have a baby, and I didn't want to
Yeah.
waitress when I was older.
you got to
because I knew
think
the
like a
pay.
10,000
Like, that's all
employee
I wanted.
CEO. And
That's
It's-
exactly right. And going back to what you had said, Fisher, about they're told exactly how to dress, they are. And so it's called a nuts and bolts, is the meetings that these were
Mhm.
told in, and they would literally tell us how to dress. Examples of, we don't wear this, we wear this. Always dress a step above the person that you're meeting,
Mhm.
is how they
Yeah.
put it to us.
Yeah. You always
And-
have to be superior. And
I
dress
wore
Yes.
wise.
jeans to a board plan once. I remember that. That felt like, I thought it was professional because I only ever wore like leggings and stuff
Sure,
everywhere
sure.
I went. So I was like, jeans is a grade above.
They're fancy.
I was like, this is what to wear. And I got looks, and people are like, I've never seen you in jeans before. I'm like, this is professional to me. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
this is like,
Yes. And they
These
would,
like-
don't have holes in them.
right. And they would criticize people who would not show up business professional.
Wow.
there
They
was
like-
one girl, like we had lunch, that showed up in a crop top one time. I remember that. And like,
Oh, gosh.
nobody ever
gosh.
said anything, but I remember them being like,
You didn't need to.
you didn't need to say anything.
It was
'Cause it
the
was frowned
whole-
upon.
The whole atmosphere.
Right.
The
was
looks were.
changed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
people look at you because when you dress like that, they think that it's your first board plan. Basically, they say you can tell somebody brand new because they're wearing their dad's shirt. Like, it's a really baggy shirt
They're
Oh,
with
normal.
maybe a tie,
Yeah.
maybe not,
Mhm.
and they're dressed
They
very
haven't
like
fallen in
loungy.
line yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? It's just so crazy to me how these are the things that people do. And again, such a great example that you're right. Like, we view them now as very cunning people, but it's because we were manipulated in such a way while we were, and I don't think that it's the base level people. If you're not an eagle and above, I don't think you're a bad person. I think that you
No.
are, and you are engaged, then you truly believe that this is the dream. You
It's very
truly
convincing. Yeah.
believe that
Yeah.
this is your
Yeah.
way in
Mhm.
life. It's the eagles, the double eagles, the platinums, the
I was gonna
rubies.
say,
Those
once
people,
you start, I was going to say,
manipulative.
once you start helping out, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off here.
that's okay.
Once you start getting involved in functions and helping out at functions, you have to kind of realize what's going on a little
Yeah.
bit.
But the
Yeah.
weird, like,
You can be willfully blind if you want to believe in the dream,
Yeah.
but the way that they were set up and ran, and the little caveats, which is no recording, and the things
Yeah.
like you had very specific things you couldn't do or say, or certain places you couldn't go. It's like
Yeah.
that stuff is easy not to miss if you're there, because everything
Yeah.
else is going on and the speaker's there and all these people are shaking hands and reuniting and
Yeah.
saying, oh, I haven't seen you since last week. And it's like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get caught up in everything. But then you look back, a year later or outside of it, and then you start to realize what was actually happening during that time.
Yes.
And it was, people were getting paid. They were taking cash by the handfuls to get in, lineups out the door. It's like,
Mhm.
it
Yeah,
takes,
we're just
you have to be
paying the
removed from it in
arena.
order to see. And that even goes for if someone approaches you. you won't notice you've been approached, most likely, if you're not paying attention, until after until after he's got your number, or you set up a meeting and you tell somebody about it. So once you tell someone, then they go, that sounds kind of culty. And you're like, oh, I didn't catch that at all. I didn't get that vibe at all. That guy seems so nice.
I kind of get that.
But you
from,
have to watch it, what he's saying. That's what you got to pay attention.
If I see a man in a suit, I'm threatened. Like, I don't find
Yes.
him like more appealing. I know a certain guy that would wear a suit somewhere, or I know a certain guy that would wear
Outside of where you're supposed to wear a suit.
to wear
Yeah,
a
if you're at the
suit.
grocery store and they're wearing one, that's a worldwide.
If they're
difference.
wearing,
Yeah,
if they are
that's-
dressed up, like that is a red flag for like these weird like motivational. You know what I'm talking about? They're like these Instagram guys that are like
Yeah,
super like, I'm gonna be rich one day and I'm gonna
Come
own
talk
this,
to
and
me.
like
That's what they
like
want.
the Ty Lopez's of the world, basically.
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
those are the types of people that wear suits and like dress up. If you see somebody like that, that's just a grade above, is what they would say
Mhm.
to us, run away.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow, just
Well, exactly.
you know, don't run away from
That's
everybody
exactly-
that looks good, but
Well, no, it's
you know what
true
I mean?
though.
Pe-
You can
approach,
see
if they,
it.
especially if they approach you, that's when you start. You should just be aware. That's all we're seeing.
Right. And I feel bad because I love talking to people. I am such an extroverted person
Me
where
too.
Yeah.
still am so like, I'll talk to the cashier and I will, and I'll catch myself asking like, oh, how long have you worked here? And I immediately feel so bad for asking that. Because I'm like, please don't think I'm weird. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Like I
Yep.
will follow that up with, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, or I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I used to work somewhere. Like I will make it not weird in some sort of way that fits with the conversation. So they don't think
Yeah.
I'm trying to recruit them for anything. Because
Yeah.
I genuinely like, I'll compliment somebody's shoes and I'll just walk away. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
do you keep your
Where
options?
do you live? Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
it
that's
feels
another
so
thing.
good now. Like,
Yes.
it feels so good.
That was
Yeah.
one thing that was freeing when we quit. I remember I used to think, I thought, so just this might take a while to explain, but I'll go to a point, I promise. I remember I used to think throughout all of high school and just after high school that I was a very shy individual and that I was not social and didn't like people. And Worldwide kept reinforcing that because I would clam up when I would go to Masawa, air quotes, or drop the message, or I would, if I knew I was going out to
Yeah.
build my business, I would not talk as well. I wouldn't know what to say because I didn't know what I was supposed to say.
Yes.
You know, I was dressed in clothing that wasn't comfortable. I
Yep.
was, you know, and then so I started to really believe that I was socially anxious and I was an incredible introvert and I couldn't understand how to have a conversation, you know what I mean? And then we
Yeah,
quit
absolutely.
Worldwide and I realized there was no pressure to talk to people and I could talk to them if I wanted to. And I actually
100%.
started to. And once I started to talk to people without an agenda that they didn't know about and that I held all the cards and it was just me talking to a stranger because I like strangers, it
Yeah.
was so freeing. Like
I
it
went,
was, and then I was just willing to talk more
I
after
went
that.
in
you
the
know?
other direction. I went like,
Now
I'm
screw
the
people.
I'm the extrovert of us too. So I was like, I would go into the grocery store and if I got to do self-checkout and I didn't have to talk to one person, I was like, that was a great day. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
And yeah.
and that's not how humans are
So
supposed
I
to be made.
avoided the obligation of talking to people.
That's
And it,
such a
like-
good point. Like I was like that too. They would say,
Yeah.
well, you talk all the time. Why is this so hard for you? Because you know deep down what you're saying is bullshit. You
It's
know
a
deep
secret-
down.
It's a secret sales pitch
It's
that I can't screw
embarrassing.
up. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like I have to report back. I have to report to somebody that I spoke to somebody today. I have to do, especially during incentive season, man.
And then they critique you.
They
Yeah, it's
do.
like,
They're like, hey, you
oh.
could have done this differently. Like, make sure you don't say this. Like, they will to a T tell you what to say and what not to say. And that's a
Yeah.
huge part of like who is coming up to you and being aware of those red flags.
Yeah.
Another thing is the book. If you're talking to them and you get engaged with them, and sometimes they'll offer it to you like it's usually at like the second look when you're still not sure who the hell they are. If you're meeting them for
Yeah.
coffee and they're giving you a book, dude, that's a
they'll say,
worldwide
let me
criminal there.
explain some things.
You
Read
run
this."
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Go-Giver,
Or the
business of the 21st century. Yep,
yep.
those are big
Yeah.
ones.
And,
And
they
I
would-
remember kind of being sucked into the business of the 21st century because Robert Kiyosaki quoted Donald Trump, and he was like, Donald Trump, a big businessman, thinks that this is a good business. this is a
And
good way to do business. And I was like, well, if anybody knows business, it's Donald Trump. My mind has changed
it's a
since.
billionaire.
oh,
but-
sure. But that's,
But
I mean,
at the
it's
time,
true.
it was like, yeah.
Because that was everybody's perception of this person, right? This is a big person. They're quoting them like this has
Yeah.
got to be legit, but it's not. And that's
when we
how
went-
they know to get you, because people are listening to audios, right? We're taught to listen to so many audios. You just regurgitate what those stupid audios
Yeah.
say.
You're like
I've
a
heard
parrot.
people refer to it as the 1,000 tape stare, the 1,000 tape stare, when they've listened to so many quote tapes where you can just tell that they have this stare about them.
Yeah, it's weird
Mhm.
because like I said to Fyscher recently, and we were talking about like what the happiest we've ever been, you know, in like our lives. And I was like, I was the happiest in worldwide. I was like the most like driven and most like, you know, but once I got out, like it wasn't like a sense of like, oh no, I don't have worldwide. It's like I don't even know who I am now. Because
Same.
I'm literally I was regurgitating
Mhm.
information and just speaking things that I didn't believe.
100%.
Real
Mhm.
emotions,
I feel the
Yeah.
same way to this day.
I feel like we
Yeah.
had a conversation about this
we did
like
because
not that long ago.
we did because I always feel like, so kind of around the same time I was in Worldwide, I was in this domestic violence relationship. If y'all haven't heard about this, go listen to our previous episodes. That's how Corey and I know each other. It's juicy and you got to listen. But nevertheless, I was in this domestic violence relationship that Worldwide did actually like support. It was very unfortunate and sad. But I'm kind of in this, like, did I lose myself because of that trauma? Or was it Worldwide? Because you know what? I
Right.
feel the exact same way.
Mhm.
I spent 3 years of my life so dedicated and motivated to Worldwide. I was staying up later than I ever
Mhm.
did. I was doing more than I ever thought possible. My schedule was so full. And then when I stopped, it was like, what the hell?
Like
all
now
of
what?
that work, yeah,
Like,
all of
Oh,
that
like-
just to get scammed. Like,
And that's what
Yeah.
burns the most.
were those feelings even real?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
all
And
of that for what?
so true.
It's honestly
But you know
toxic
what?
relationship
It's for
with
it's for
them.
this. That's the thing. Like it's for this. The reason that we went through this trauma is so we can do a podcast and communicate the shit that we went through.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But,
that's
like-
pretty much it. Like,
like-
that's why we do what we do, because
Yeah.
we've been through shit. And that's actually something we were hoping to talk about later is
Yeah.
in reference to Worldwide Books, is kind of talk more about how their books are directly linked to domestic violence in some way, shape, or form because of the things that they tolerate and the messages that they preach. But it's because
Yeah.
we've been through this trauma that we really want to teach other people, like, please look out for this. Like our previous episode was about red flags. We talked about red flags in relationships because, you know, we see people every day in these really toxic relationships.
Mhm.
And you see that in Worldwide. We're not
Yes.
taught red flags of toxic relationships. We're taught if you enter this business with this person, you are going to be groomed by these people to
Mhm.
marry this person.
Yeah.
See, and Fyscher and I can talk about that too, because like we went into Worldwide, we were dating for 2 years already at
Yeah.
that point, and we got married while in Worldwide and like quit, and now we're still married, which is an anomaly. Like that,
It really is.
yeah.
you know, but we can talk about definitely like we went through some like,
Relearning. Because
relearning.
we
Yeah.
both didn't know who we were. We had to reinvent ourselves
Yeah.
in our mid-20s. Like, if you're
Yeah.
not careful, you lose your 20s to these people and your 30s to these people, and then you
Yeah.
don't know who you are, and you have
That's
all
how
this
I
figuring
feel.
out to do.
I'm gonna cry because that's so true. I'm turning 30 this year, and
Yeah,
I
and-
genuinely blame Worldwide for the fact that I am not anywhere where I thought I would
Yeah.
be. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't until this year after therapy that my therapist was like, "You want to be a therapist?" And I was like, "I do." But I told her that a couple of times. That's why she said that. She's amazing. And I told her about the podcast. She's like, "I think this is what you want to do." And
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
had pushed off the idea of school because of Worldwide. I don't want the
Mhm.
debt. I'm so scared. And now, like, I gave up my 20s to this
Yeah.
stupid cult.
Yeah.
And just
Me too.
now almost about to enter my 30s. And now I genuinely feel like an adult. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hate that Worldwide stole that from me, because it wasn't just those 3 years that I was in Worldwide. I had to take the
No,
next 3 years to freaking rebuild my life because I lost so much money in Worldwide.
Mhm.
Oh man, it takes a lot. Like we moved out to Kalmar. We got like a decent place out there. They jacked up the rent. Now we're back in the same apartment building we are in when we first got married. And it's like we're 27 years old this year. Like, why are we living in the the same apartment we lived in when we were 21 and 22. This makes no sense. Like,
Yeah.
why are we still here? And it's like, we have to understand, like, your ego kind of gets in the way of you being like, oh, this cult / like predatory business stole time from you and tried to convince you that the choices you were making to make these decisions were the right choices. And now you're broke because you've got no education, you have no savings, you have no RRSPs, you have no like retirement, you have nothing.
They tell you to don't put money into your 401k, don't put money into your retirement plan at work. They tell you to
put it into your
moving
ditto.
jobs. I mean, worldwide, I had so many jobs, and it's still, and what sucks is because of the pandemic, I've still had so many freaking jobs, and it sucks. I mean, now it's different because, you know, I have a child with a disability, which is a whole different story. But still, I mean, I don't think my upline, Craig, that guy had another job, I swear to God, every other month. Same with Barbara's son, who was their upline. He also had jobs all the time. And it was like, they could never create, they're like, just keep looking for the best thing. Just keep looking for the next best thing. And that mentality eventually like bites you in the ass, because then you're, again, I'm going to be in my 30s. I've never been with a company for longer than 2 years. And that was before I was in Worldwide.
Yeah, I think the longest for me was 3, but I was on maternity leave for 1.5 years. So like it burned us. Like it really burned us.
And that's exactly why we're here to tell you guys, these are the warning signs. I mean, it's up to you. If you want to go and listen to what these people have to say, go for it. Form your own opinions. But there's people like us who genuinely would have liked to know, you know, what was going on. I mean, Zay and Melody were in at the exact same time that I was. And I actually didn't watch their videos until a year ago because, you know, my upline was like, I knew them, they're BS, they're lying, And I now wish I would have listened. I mean, obviously, hindsight's 2020. Everyone's like, I wish I would have listened, but they gaslight you and they manipulate you. And they do that starting day one, the moment that they talk to you.
Right up until you notice.
Yeah.
And some people never notice. There's some people that right before we quit, they went diamond. They were in Worldwide for like something like 16 or 17 years.
Oh, wow.
Just on the back burner. And then they told us that, you know what, they just decided they're tired of drawing lines in the sand. And they just went diamond, they said. It's like, I don't know what happened there, but they obviously got tired of it and they decided to push through, which I don't know how that happened, because I don't know what it took to do that, especially after 17 years.
Yeah, no, I could never. 17 years is a long time. I mean, sure, maybe if you make it to like the platinum level, right? Because I feel like a platinum income is okay. It's all right. You know, that's an income that you could be all right on for a while, right? It's maybe not. I don't buy that it's 150,000 a year, maybe 100,000, maybe 80.
Might pay off your ditto.
Exactly. That's about it. And people, I feel like, get stuck because they're like, oh, I made it to this level. And then they just kind of hang there, which is fine. But we're talking about those people too, who just stay in and never go anything. And those are the people that I feel so bad for. And they target vulnerable people. There was this girl, I will not even begin to mention like anything about her, because it's not my place to tell this story. So I'm going to say her story, but I'm not going to say who she is. But she was around the business. I don't know which leg of business she was in, but her story was like a murder, like her parents like murder suicide. And like the next year she was in the business. Or for me, it was, I had just ended a domestic violence relationship. Or for Robert, who was in, he hated his job and was just at his lowest low. Like you're talking about people, they target people. I mean, think about it. They're going to grocery stores. I don't know. I never felt comfortable being like, hey, dentist, hey, doctor, hey, banker. No, it was always like, hey, gas station attendant. In fact, my boyfriend, Jacob, shout out, this motherfucker loves me. And I can tell you why. This guy was so excited. He calls me up immediately as he gets off work. He's like, yo, you will never guess what happened to me today. And I was like, I don't know. Like, okay, funny story. A homeless person did like punch him at work. So I was like, oh no, did another
Oh.
homeless person punch him? Dead serious. Yeah. And I was like, oh no, what did a homeless person do? He's like, no, dude, this girl asked for my number. I was like, excuse me? He's like, no, dude, she asked me. She said that she has connections. I was like, yo,
It
let's
happened.
go.
Yeah.
Happened to Fyscher too.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I called her, right? I'm like, oh, I'm Jacob's girlfriend. And I didn't give my name. And I was just bullshitting with her. And then she told me and then she said her name. I was like, fuck, dude, I knew she was. I said her last name. She's like, what? I was like, oh, yeah. I used to be in that business too. They support domestic violence and they are toxic. They're manipulative. No, absolutely not. I mean, I didn't curse her out, but I was basically like, no, all this is bullshit. Right. So they're going to a gas station employee, which at the time he does something different now, but he really at the time wanted to be an underwater welder. She tells him that she has connections and she'll see what she can do. Does she not realize that to be a welder, you have to have a very like lengthy certification process? Like you don't know jack shit about welding. You don't know anybody. You know what's funny too is she called me a week later at 8 p.m. my time. So I had a massage appointment. My massage therapist was my friend at the time when I lived close to her, and she made an appointment time for me late at night. And I was getting a massage. I got this phone call and I didn't have the number saved. So I was like, oh shit, I should probably answer this. I don't know what's going on. It was her asking for my fucking name. Bet money she was trying to tell her upline who I was. There was a Kate about me going up somewhere. And now they know me. But they'll blow up your phone. They will make you feel guilty if you don't see anything. If you ghost them, they'll call you 6 months later and be like, hey, is that
checking in?
They do. They're like, oh, I know
list.
I know a business owner. He contracts with a bunch of different businesses. Oh, Nike, Apple, like you don't know, like you could tell them any sort of business. You could say to them, Corey, you could be like, hey, I want to be in veterinary, whatever. Right. And they're like, oh, I know somebody who does that. Like
I know a veterinarian.
Oh no, they really do. Or they'll take their upline, all of their job history, all of the upline's job history, which is usually pretty fucking lengthy.
Yeah.
So they'll find something in common. Right. So let's say that you wanted to be a veterinary assistant, which you obviously have done that. You could tell them that and they'll think in their upline, who can I edify?
Right.
Who can I speak to and say, okay, this person, actually, I know a veterinary assistant who, she loved her career. She actually, met a couple and ended up, becoming one of my biggest mentors. I could introduce you to her. Tell me you would not be intrigued by that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what you want to do. Of course, you're going to want to get in on all the details and what to do.
And it's not veterinary assistants.
No,
it's not even a job.
Bullshit. Yeah.
So again, this is stuff that has heavily impacted our lives. We have explained how it stole our 20s from us, how we have felt our whole lives being taken from us. And the biggest thing that we want you to take away here is just be aware. Just be aware of your surroundings, be cautious. And if you want to be around these people, great. But if you really want to know, this is what to look out for.
Yeah.
If you're sensing that they're not genuine, please don't ignore that. Don't ignore your gut with these people.
If it
anything
sounds too good, it is too good.
Yeah, it really is that way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming back. We can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you guys. And there might be a part 2 after this because this is long. Sorry for it being so long, but we get into it, man. Yeah. So if there's a part 2, we'll let you know.
Books too.
Yeah, I would love to come back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We would love to have you guys. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. And thanks for listening, everybody. Corey, where can they follow us?
You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at @XsandT_podcast.
Share it with your friends, family. Bye.
Bye.